U.S. President Donald Trump is due to hold a White House meeting on Gaza later on Wednesday. His special Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, says post-war plans for the Gaza Strip will be discussed. Witkoff also says the U.S. expects the war to be settled by the end of this year. Heidi Jo Castro has more on this from Washington, D.C.
President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, says Gaza's post-war future will be discussed at a White House meeting on Wednesday, and that the meeting will be chaired by Trump. Witkoff did not offer any details on this meeting, but said that a post-war plan would be, quote, comprehensive and reflect Trump's humanitarian motives. Witkoff also said he was confident that the war would end this year, even as Israel has so far declined to respond to the current ceasefire offer that's on the table. Witkoff said Hamas could encourage Israel to more quickly accept the deal by, he said, feeding the captives. Gaza City is in a state of famine where 500,000 people are nearing starvation, while the remaining 2 million people of Gaza are struggling with severe hunger. Witkoff was also asked to respond to the deadly Israeli military strike on Nasser Hospital, which has been denounced by some world leaders as a war crime. Witkoff said civilian deaths are indeed a tragedy. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
To discuss this and all the latest developments, joining me on set is Abdullah Al-Aryan, Associate Professor at Georgetown University here in Qatar. Thank you so much, Abdullah, for your time. So we have right now the Israeli military pushing deeper into Gaza City, leveling entire neighborhoods. The famine spreading across Gaza, as we've heard, with devastating consequences, long-term consequences for Palestinians in Gaza. We also have these major Israeli raids in the occupied West Bank. What does this tell you about the Israeli strategy? Is this proof that Israel's war is not simply against Hamas, but against the Palestinian people as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've known this all along, right? That this has been a genocide from its early stages, and this is about essentially, at least in the case of Gaza, a mass ethnic cleansing campaign, right? That this mass displacement of 1 million people, I mean, this is a first step in a much broader process in which the idea is to displace people, to destroy their homes, ensure that every basic necessity of life, as we continue to hear, is decimated to such a degree that there's no option left for them ultimately other than this mass expulsion campaign that, of course, we've heard many times from various Israeli officials that this is the end game. And of course, on the American side, this seems to be very much enabled and supported, right? We have a U.S. president who's expressed support for that idea.
Well, I'll ask you about the Americans in this meeting that's supposed to happen today about Gaza in a minute. But what about what's happening in the occupied West Bank? Is that also part of the plan to perhaps erase the Palestinian people and the Palestinian community across all the territories?
Yeah, certainly this has been the case, right? That the continuous enabling of both the settlers within the West Bank, as well as the military and the state itself, which is continuing to displace Palestinians. It's happening at a smaller scale from obviously the genocide that's taking place in Gaza, but there, I think, have to be seen as being in conjunction with one another, right? That this is ultimately about the decimation of a Palestinian nationhood so that there will never be the opportunity for either self-determination or even the removal of the apartheid system that has been in place, and to continue the settler colonial process that has been at work going all the way back to 1948 and continuing into the present.
Yeah, so destruction itself is a strategy here.
That's right.
All right. Let me ask you about Donald Trump now. He's set to host what they're calling a large meeting on Gaza later today at the White House. They're talking about a plan for the day after, a comprehensive plan for the day after. Do you expect anything meaningful to come out of this, or is this, again, going to be largely political theater meant for TV audiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a delay tactic that is actually helping to buy time, essentially, for Israel to continue to prosecute its genocide, particularly in Gaza, and looking specifically at a number of the negotiation and mediation efforts that have yielded absolutely no outcome, right? It's now been a week since the Palestinian side, at least, has signaled its willingness to accept the terms that have been on offer for many weeks now, and yet with absolutely no response from the Israeli side, and also, more importantly, that no leverage or at least no pressure coming from the American side. And again, this is a president who's now been in office for 7 months, and in that time, all we've seen is some of the worst escalations. He promised to end
the war during his campaign.
That's right, and this was something that could have been done on day one, as he supposedly said. But of course, we know that ultimately the U.S. is very much a partner in the genocide, continuing to arm Israel, having essentially expressed absolutely no criticisms of any of its actions. And in fact, if anything, given what we've seen, for instance, in the way that the U.S. has helped to weaponize things like food and have obviously lured Palestinians, many hundreds of them, to their deaths just simply seeking aid, that this has all been a massive escalation over the last several months that have made the horrific conditions of this genocide far worse. And so any discussions, I think, have to be seen in light of the broader U.S. involvement here.
Abdullah Al-Arian, always good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us on the Al Jazeera NewsHour.